What's up, dudes? Welcome back to another episode of Rhomas Men's Team. Pretty simple. We are a group of guys helping each other make progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to rhomasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team.
And we're live now, so we're going to hear your rage rolling over Tim Butterly.
No way, dude. No way.
No,
My mom's here,
funny.
so I can't use any colloquialisms of what I was doing there.
Don't try to keep it cool, dude. Just fangirl out. It's okay.
No, you already made my morning. Don't prolong. Now it's suffering for me as well. Thank you. Good morning.
So,
all right, we're live.
We're live now, and it's a huge honor to have Tim Butterly on here. Butterly, I want to give you the mic, and please don't be humble, because one of the things we do here on the team is share our wins. Mm-hmm. And I had the great pleasure of doing a goal planning session with you a few years ago, and you've just been on fire since I've met you. And would you mind telling the guys, and again, don't be humble, because a lot of guys are going to be listening to this who are in a certain stage that, let's say, you were in not too long ago and now have climbed a significant distance from that. So can you let the guys know where you came from, what you're up to, where you are now, et cetera?
Okay. So a little bit of just before our goal planning session. Okay. I didn't go to college. I had a fake IT career that had very much resembled a real IT career after a number of years. I had been doing comedy at the volunteer level for a number of years. I had some big opportunities that didn't go anywhere, so I was kind of defeated. And so I kind of just allowed myself to fill out the mold of this weird corporate IT career. It was making me miserable. I very much still wanted to be in comedy. I got a little bit of a new opportunity in it and started to rededicate myself. And after a couple of years of doing that, not long enough to even be expecting results yet, but after a couple of years of doing that, Matt connected you and I feel like it might have been one of the most fortuitous connections I've had. I was invited to a goal planning meeting. And it was so bizarre. It was so bizarre to just be hanging out with dudes that were taking each other very seriously, not ourselves. Well, we were being encouraged to take ourselves very seriously, but the greater point was just having a couple of homies around who were laser focused on what's next for you. And it completely shifted my perspective, dude. And honestly, maybe it has made me kind of a dickhead to people, but it's I really don't have any patience for acquaintances that I run into every 6 months and they've got the same problems as 6 months ago and they haven't made any progress on anything else. So we have a goal planning session. It may be the first time in my entire life where I've plotted out the next year. I've been paycheck to paycheck since high school. I thought about my life in terms of a year from now and what would I have to do every day. And that's been my daily operation ever since. And now I feel I've exited, I feel that sent me down they say there's 2 years of chaos when you start a business. I felt suddenly I was my business and I had 2 years of chaos, and I feel I'm emerging on the other side now and things are starting to go my way. I've got this little modest comedy tour that's starting to sell out and expanding and adding dates. And it's just all I did was just set goals out just beyond the rim of my comfort zone and force myself to sacrifice and work. And I don't know. There's no trick.
Yeah. Well,
so that's my little bit of background.
Yeah, and I'd imagine very few of the guys on here don't know who you are. But what are your projects now? And if you don't mind giving some numbers around it, again, just to inspire the guys who might say, "Oh yeah, good for you." But now that we know kind of where you came from, and for the longest time, if you don't mind me saying this, Tim, you lived in Kensington, right?
Yeah. So I lived in a part of Philadelphia. I spent the majority of my life in a place in Philadelphia called Kensington, which is now like kind of viral for being like, maybe the worst, like, the homeless encampment drug problem area in America. At least that's how I see it. And dude, I came from a fucking scrap pile. You know what I mean? So I got laid off from my job 2 years ago, January. It's almost exactly 2 years ago now. And the fork in the road was, do I get another fake IT job and wallow while supporting my family, or do I fully invest in myself and believe I can do this as a business? So I don't know if I'd have to do the math. I don't know if I replaced all of the income from the IT job, but I'm pretty close just from podcasting and stand up now. And last year I started what I think will be like my main thing, which is like YouTube content and a solo podcast. And that's starting to return now. That's starting to make me a little bit of cash now. What specifically do you want to know? What do you think would be the most helpful for me to talk about?
Yeah. So how many podcasts do you have right now? What are those? And then if you don't mind giving a rough idea of numbers of like how many subscribers, and then when you're doing your comedy, how often are you doing it, et cetera? Because your transition is so wild, going from, part-time maybe comedian and full-time unwanted IT guy job that you had now into the exact opposite. And everybody mark my words, I guarantee that next time we talk to Tim, 6 months from now, a year from now, whatever that is, he's on an exponential curve. And that is not me hyping him up. That's just the raw data. You can't go from $0 to, okay, now I've replaced my income, to now having multiple podcasts that many people know about and Patreon accounts, et cetera. You can't do that if you're not on an exponential curve inside of a year and a half, 2 years. So,
Wes, I'll say that we won't be able to book him. He'll be too Hollywood. Like,
no, you can't. You can't gas me up like
these questions.
No. Don't do that. Don't. You can't say those things to my face, because then if even a part of my psyche attaches to that and goes like, those guys are right, I am the shit. It's over, dude.
Well, I'll direct it more specifically than Tim. It seems like you were lucky, or the timing was right for you to be let go from your IT job and just kind of cast you off the cliff into what you really want to be doing. And so, can you tell us, while you were still doing the IT to feed your family, like, did you know that the comedy really was your muse and what you really wanted to be doing? And tell us about that internal dialogue about, like, if you had your way, would you have quit the IT? Tell us about that dilemma.
Dude, I had a fantasy about, because my IT job, again, I hated it. It's not who I am. I do think that for the most part, and it was specifically, I was doing, I was operations manager for an e-commerce company. So I'm doing like server side engineering and support for a company that, and I feel like this might be kind of a blanket statement, but like most of e-commerce is just people looking at Amazon and going, we could do that and make a lot less money. And then, you've got 100 employees who are kind of just like ants in a useless, and in a colony that should be washed away. You're not adding value to society. You're not doing great at adding even just financial value to investors. It's hell. Anyway, I knew I wanted comedy to be my thing, and I'll get more specific, especially if you have listeners who are maybe like going head down, clocking in, clocking out because they know they want something else, but they need the paycheck in the meantime. Here's where I ended up. I had a very high upside in like 2017. It looked like we were going to have a TV show on Comedy Central. The rug was pulled at the last possible moment. And so I was forced to get a new IT job to support my family. So I spent 6 years working for Lucky Vitamin as the shit. I was watching their ship sink. Business was bad. The decisions were horrible. This was like a third generation family business with a brick and mortar store. I watched the brick and mortar store get closed. I watched this guy's grandparents go like, what the hell's going on? I watched like the different, what do you call it? What's the different parts of a company? Departments. I was watching departments starve while useless new departments swelled. And it was apparent every decision was bad. I watched 3 sales of the company where one guy made a lot of money in each transaction, and everyone, like, it was a nightmare. And I just went, okay, I'll just show. Like, it's not hard to be the best employee in an office. You can fake it. You can kind of like almost do it like a video game and just be like, yeah, you can stun on them. These are, your average office worker has like maybe 105 IQ. And you can dance circles around them and they don't know what's going on. So I did that. I did that for 6 years. And the whole time I'm thinking my 2017 project that failed, that was taken from me, maybe someone else will notice it and they'll pluck me out of this. I just have to bide my time. And dude, 6 years went, whoop. I didn't even notice. I didn't even notice the 6 years. Even right now, it doesn't feel like it was that long, but oh my God, you know what you know how many people I would kill for 6 years right now? That's crazy. And so the time was screaming by. I had this fantasy of it was paying pretty well. I got it to a point where my like day to day was very easy, and I had this fantasy of going, today's my last day. You know what I mean? It's over. This whole I'm not even coming back to this industry because my ships come in. And it never came. It was never going to come. And thank God they laid me off. Thank God they fucking hit dire straits and had to just. It got to the point where they weren't even letting go like underperforming departments. It was just like, how much salary can we cut to get to the next month? And I was in a group layoff that I did not see coming, and I had a really beautiful moment because I was this was during COVID. So we were working from home, and I was sitting at the coffee table in an unexpected 9 a.m. meeting, and I'm sipping coffee, and I almost didn't even notice I got fired. They did it so quickly, and it was over. And I closed the laptop, and I looked over to my wife, who was sitting on the couch next to me, and I said, "Hey, I think I just got laid off." And she said, "Congratulations." So they pushed me out of the nest. I was forced to take everything I was doing and become more effective and organized. And thank goodness I've been kind of blessed with my peers in comedy who are way more successful than me have seen fit to drag me along and expose me to all their people, and now I have enough of an audience that I can get by.
Yeah,
I've got issue with a couple of things. If you don't mind, Wes, I'd like to push back on him. You said 6 years ago went by, but you weren't in a comedy and creative desert during that 6 years. For example, I discovered you at I think when like so many people, when Shane Gillis got hired and fired from SNL, that kind of put the national spotlight on the Philly comedy scene. And so I discovered you that way. And surely during that 6 years, you were I know you were still getting joy from the limited amount of comedy you were doing. And so tell me about that conversation in your head where you're like, I'm doing this comedy thing. I love it. It's, it is a hobby for broke people. And then I've got this 9 to 5, which is killing me. And these polarities that you're getting pulled between.
Well, okay. So the real source of anguish there was that, yes, comedy was a hobby for broke people, but at every opportunity I had, I was this close to making money. You know what I mean? It was almost like I almost felt like a gambling addict at a certain point, because it was just like I'm stretching myself. Dude, the resources are wearing thin so that I can be available for these opportunities, and one of them is going to pay off, and it just wasn't. And I was having conversations with myself where it was like, okay, I'll take opportunities that come in, but maybe in 25 years, I will be retiring from an IT position and they'll be giving me a watch and stuff like that. Yeah, I was taking opportunities that like were shoved in my face here and there by my friends, but I wasn't doing anything for myself. And thank God Shane took off, dude, because watching his success made me kind of be like, okay, well, now he's getting to the point where when they ask me to do something, first of all, how much longer are they going to ask me to do anything? And second, when they do, am I going to feel like they're doing me a favor? And now that really kind of kicked me into gear and made me think that if I'm going to do this, I have to like really apply myself and earn my opportunities. And again, it was just another integral part of getting moving for myself, man.
Hey dudes, sorry for the interruption here. Just wanted to let you know, if you want to join our pro team, go to romasteam.com/pro. You can help support the channel. You will also get access to exclusive content, masterminds, one-on-one sessions, etc. All right, back to the episode.
Yeah, and Wes, I think you'll appreciate this metaphor, Wes. Tim said, like, he kept getting signs from the universe that his ship wasn't coming in, right? Regarding like the big contract from Comedy Central that he was hoping for. But it sounded like he had to build the ship. What do you think, Wes?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny. One of your videos, Tim, that you were a part of just came across my feed literally last night when you guys did the skit. What was it called? Uncle's
Delco?
Daycare.
Yeah, Uncle Daycare, man.
Yeah, Uncle Daycare with it was you, Shane,
It was
Rainey.
all the boys. That was my entire inner circle.
Yeah, just absolutely outstanding to watch from the sidelines of how much money and time you guys invested into your careers before you knew it was going to go anywhere. And it's been super inspiring. And if there was one message that I took from you and Matt and Shane and Rainey, et cetera, it's that, number one, don't be afraid to invest more time, money, and energy into yourself, you as the company, but then also using the tools of the internet to now fill in the gaps of the major like punctuated shows. In fact, I would argue that now, I'm guessing, comedy used to be about solely the punctuation marks, right? Like every weekend or every other weekend you would go and you do a show. Now it seems like the connective tissue is more potent, or at least a feeder system into those shows. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, well, I think you're kind of like describing like the old industry, which is kind of gone. Like you had to always be on your shit and then just hope that someone was in the crowd that has any kind of juice. Or like you would facilitate that and then you'd have to hope you had like the show of your life. Or you know what I mean? And now it's like you can kind of just like consistently show people your thing and hopefully make enough connections with people with their own built-in audiences that like you get in front of their people and like you can kind of like grind it out in a healthy way now. I don't know. That's kind of my philosophy is like I know that like there's a certain number of people in America or maybe worldwide who kind of share my perspective on stuff, and I can kind of pump out an infinite supply of that. And it's just a matter of like doing it consistently and making it something like worth people's time. And that's my recipe for success. That's all.
And Wes,
sorry, let me throw this ball at him if that's okay. Tim, for the guys listening, and then we'll go round table here if Meyer and Phil want to ask a question, because I know you've got a lot of fans listening. For the guys who might not be into comedy themselves or want to do something else and are currently not doing that thing, what would you recommend? Would you recommend they start a podcast, they start an online presence? Would you recommend they do something else if you know they're miserable in their cubicle or wherever else they are, and they have this itch to be something better?
Yeah. So, okay. So specifically, I have two podcasts. Dad Meat, Tim Butterly's show, and I have a fake TV show that we make on YouTube called Field Trippin'. My thing is I'm trying to make people laugh. I think that's the value that I create for people. If I weren't doing that, maybe I would be a baker or a welder. And what all I would do would be just forcing myself to get as nasty at it as possible so that I could run my own outfit. That like, I don't know that like specifically podcasting or like broadcasting yourself is the right, it's not blanket advice for everyone in everyone's situation. I watch I watch a lot of like trade content on YouTube. So I am watching dudes like that run like a welding school, and they go, "You got to see this kid." And I watch some kid who's just like, I have no idea what quality of welds they're doing, but I go, I know I could apply myself to that if I needed to. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like you have to kind of like become your thing. You have to like be completely engrossed. You have to be consumed by your thing. If I didn't have my family, all I would do is comedy. I would be driving barely functioning minivans until they broke down, and then I would buy a new one, and I would drive couch to couch across America only doing comedy. I have a family to support. I have to approach it in a more organized and safe way. But it's just like, yeah, go to work, clock in, clock out, cash your paycheck, obsess over the thing that you want to do every second that you have outside of that.
Absolutely love it.
Well, it's interesting. Sorry, Wes. It's interesting, Tim, like that you talk about the welder and like the silly like content that the kind of blue collar content we all get sucked into. It's true of video games too. Now, as you know, the kind of video games that kids play. Like my daughter has downloaded a game where you take groceries out of a bag and you put them in the fridge, and it's hours of joy for her. But so.
And does she watch people play that too?
And yeah, right. So she's watching that, and I'm watching her, and my wife is complaining about the groceries not being put away. But it's obvious to us that you could use YouTube, Instagram Reels, social media in general, the internet, to leapfrog the delays in your career that the gatekeepers used to control, right? Like auditioning to get your pilot to a national audience. You can just put it on YouTube. But what Wes and I talk about a lot here is that is not unique to people who are in broadcast kind of careers, the way comedy, musicians, actors are. Like Wes, what would be your kind of concise statement for how any of us should use the internet to leapfrog the delays that traditional gatekeepers have put in place?
Well, I think the origin is just creating value, and the internet allows for this massive bridge to create value. To Tim's point, to your audience, even if you get the eyeballs of 0.0000001% of the world, that is still a very large number, and the internet just allows you to basically do that for free, relatively. But let's go around here if you guys don't mind, because we've got a few guys who want to ask some questions. First, let me see, somebody asked a question over here. Frank asked a question. Hey, said, Tim, very inspirational to hear where you came from and where you're at today. Can you talk more about where you've explored things outside of your comfort zone during the 2-year period between the goal setting session and now? What pushed you to stretch? What did you learn? Where did you fail or course correct?
Okay, I have a very good example for you guys, and that is so in comedy, typically and I'm sorry, I don't want to do like inside baseball comedy talk, but this is business, okay? Typically, you make your money in stand-up because you have either a booking agent or even like a skilled manager who is contacting venues and selling them on your ability to sell tickets. And then they're also negotiating deals that work out in your favor financially for you to perform there. And so I don't have that. And specifically in the 2 years since that goal planning session, I've gotten to the point where now I'm booking my own. I've been in the past like month and a half, I've done comedy in like 10 different cities. I made all of that happen myself. The deals aren't the best yet. I am a Gentile, but I'm building up something. You know what I mean? Like this all compounds this. And it was, call it self-starting or something like that. But my alternative for that 2 years would just be to like beg people for maybe a spot on their show. and then you go and you hope you do a good 10-minute set, and then someone else wants you to have it on. And I cut all of that out. The real value of the internet and getting rid of those gatekeepers is like you go direct to, I hate to say customer.
Consumer?
Let's say I'm going direct to my intended recipients. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
You're on your tribe for sure.
yeah, exactly. It's me and then the homies, no middleman. And, it's a painful process. It's a painful process. It's simultaneously you're demanding attention from strangers, which if you like that, that's terrifying. That's a scary person. If you like the act of going, hey, everybody, come check out my thing. That's really terrible. So I had to force myself to start doing that to sustain the business. And then on top of that, it's like, if you feel confident that you're going to nail it. So here's what I'm doing. I'm going, hello, hey, everyone in Cincinnati, you got to come get a load of me. And then the potential for 100 people to pay to be in a room. And then you just go, it's 100% real. That could happen every single time. And I've powering through that. I got enough rocket fuel dumped into my skates to come out of our goal planning session 2 years ago to just power through it. It's not behind me. I deal with it every single time I email a place and say, can I please have one night there on a Thursday in April? And it is working. It's nuts.
Yeah, let me throw this at you, Tim. And thank you for that answer for Frank. If you had to just roughly guess, how many views do you think that you get across your channels per week? Just rough ballpark, and it doesn't even matter if it's half wrong.
Well, I know monthly I'm getting about 75,000 views on my YouTube channel, and Dad Meat I think is comparable. And then I know the audio for Dad Meat is nuts. The YouTube kind of doesn't hold a candle. Those are the numbers that I do know off the top of my head. So I don't know.
Yeah. So is it safe to say hundreds of thousands of views / listens per month? Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
So the point I want to illustrate is that no matter what level you're at, you're always still feeling, and I'm not saying you, Tim, but everybody always still feels like the future is still very much ahead of them, right? Because if I would have asked you a couple years ago, hey, how would it feel to have a few 100,000 views and listens per month, you probably would have said, I'd made it by then. But it's funny how much, in a good way, the horizon moves away from you the more you run to it.
Were you the one that phrased it as living in the Delta? You have to live in the Delta between what you are capable of now and what your goal is. And you can't ever, once you get to that goal, that has to become a new Delta. You know what I mean? I think I got that from you.
Yeah.
But that's like a guiding principle for me. I'm always uncomfortable.
Yeah, 100%. And to be fair, I'm pretty sure I said that because it sounds like something I would say. So if I took credit,
I didn't know what Delta meant before, so it was either you or I met another really smart guy.
So
Wes is the only person who talks like that. Go ahead, Wes. Show him.
Let me throw this over to Meyer. Meyer, do you have any questions for Tim? Shoot your shot, brother.
I don't really have a specific question for Tim, but I really liked how we were talking about whether you should start a social media platform or make videos about what you're doing for your industry. We kind of talked about that in the last meeting. It really resonated with me, and I thought, maybe I should start making videos and start recording kind of, not my journey, but just kind of what I do in my work. And then that just really resonated with me.
What do you do, Meyer?
I try to do real estate. I have some experience in real estate. I've done some deals, but I struggle to get consistency, I guess.
Mm. And what kind of videos have you thought about making?
I was thinking about making those influencer videos, or being one of those like real estate influencer guys that you've seen on like TikTok or Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, my comedic instinct would be to obviously shred every realtor I knew. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Not to do like realtors be like, but I would just be like, yeah, dude, I know everyone sees what's up with these guys. Like my instinct is always just like, I know what the perception of these people is, especially with the way that they use social media, and I would try to subvert it and clown on them and make myself look cooler than all of them.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, well,
And hold on, and Meyer, if you ever want to work again, like you could try the opposite, which is just be your authentic self. Like the thing I love about Tim, obviously Tim, love everything you just said, but like the thing I love about you, Tim, is that you're not trying to be like the most accurate traditional comedian, right? Like the content that you create that I enjoy so much weaves into comedy bits, weaves out into personal anecdotes, weaves into vulnerability, weaves into like retelling amazing like comedic experiences. And so like I'm just going to take the small piece you said, which is like obviously the hair gel and the convertible automobiles of like real estate influencers. We all know that is like staged and like obnoxious, and they're applying their own makeup behind like whatever these things are called, ring lights, and just like so like he could be the alternative, which shows like his authentic self and his authentic voice, which is what you're best at, Tim, is like your authenticity comes through.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. That really resonated with me where you were saying just be yourself. I think you were telling Frank when Frank was on here talking about what he wanted to do. You were telling him just be himself, and then record videos in that regard. And like how like Ray was saying, most realtors, they're clean cut, and they've got like short hair, no beard or anything. And I was at a point where I was thinking about just chopping my hair off and trying to go with that route, but no, I thought maybe I can make that YouTube channel and then be the mullet beard investment guy.
Yeah, why not? I mean, like I was saying about the most recent failing business that I worked for. Like, are you going to look at the people who appear to be succeeding and then do like kind of that for diminishing returns, or is there something in you that generates value and is worth showing to people?
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I like that.
Absolutely love it.
Awesome.
Meyer, thank you, brother. I'm going to go round table, bring some more people up here. Meyer, thank you, brother.
Thank you.
John,
thank you, Tim.
Nice meeting you, Meyer.
Thank you.
I'll throw you the mic in a second here if you have any questions. And I would say, Tim, just while John Michael is prepping for his question, if you don't mind maybe commenting on what it actually means to reinvest back into yourself. Like, if you're open to sharing how much time or money or commitment or sacrifice you and your wife had to put into building the business of you to get you where you are today, if you had to quantify that, what would that look like?
Okay. So, oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. That would be tough to quantify. That would feel like almost an IRS audit if I had to quantify that. But okay. So, like I said, I come from poverty. I had a fake career that was starting to pay. We have 3 kids. We started having them too young. We probably should not have, but we lucked out. It was definitely the right move for us and our setup rules. However, my wife stopped working when our first child was born because I don't know. Look, I don't know about the wider picture of like childcare in America. We just knew that our options were great. What's that?
Childcare in Kensington's not outstanding. Daycare?
Yeah, it was pretty messed up, dude. It was basically just like your options are, for what you can afford as a genuinely poor person with kids in the hood. It was like you can afford, you drop your baby off at like a lady's house where there's just like other kids from the neighborhood and everyone's kind of just like paying in cash. We did that for like 2 weeks and we were just like, this is nuts. We knew enough to be like, this is crazy. So she left work. She's been full-time with the kid. Now she has a job. she's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. So she's like an instructor. She does like enrollments. It's the coolest lady ever. But we sacrificed so that we could build the family we wanted. And along the way, she was also 100% behind me in stand. I didn't start comedy until we had, I think, either 2 kids or the second one was about to be born. But she says this now. She said she never questioned it. She always thought that there was something for me there. So my wife's efforts 100% reinvested into everything we do. I can't believe it. She's given me enough space to work and carve something out here just by managing all of our lives. She's been a full-time employee for our whole family for 16 years. You can start a podcast, and if it gets any momentum going on Patreon, you're making like $200-$300 a month. You go, whoa, let me let this pile up a little bit, see what happens, And with Dad Meat, that was easy enough because it's low overhead. It's just chat, For the stuff I'm working on now, we need a budget. I have a crew. I have a producer and cameraman. That's one guy. And then I have a post-production editor guy, and I have a co-host because I do still, as much as I've tried to conquer it, I do still encounter Asperger's symptoms day to day. So I need someone to just sometimes yank the leash on the conversation. Anyway, I started a Patreon to get people to sort of fluff out the budget for this thing and get it off the ground. And I don't think I've been able to keep a dime of it yet. We've had to buy equipment. I have to pay for travel. It doesn't feel like I'm making money. Like it's definitely bringing in revenue, but right now it's like 100% is going back into at least getting us to where we want to be in the start. And then maybe we'll see if the money starts to stack up. You're so tempted. You're so tempted. You see that first PayPal deposit come in, you go, I'll just sit on this. I'll just repeat what I did to get this, $1,200. I'll just do that over and over and over again. Who knows how many $1,200 is I could get? And you have to resist that with every fiber of your being, and you have to go, no, I can't keep any of this. I need to sink this directly back into my studio space. And then that's, on top of that, unexpected expenses and stuff like that. So yeah, for my personal stuff, for Patreon, for the Tim Butterly Patreon, I don't, it's been up for over 6 months now, and it's all gone directly back into like traveling and producing actual content.
Yeah, I mean, I think you had answered it even better than I would have hoped, which is like the percentage that you are putting back into yourself and your company. And for what you're saying, for this particular side of your business, it's 100%. And it's so important for a lot of guys to hear this, because sometimes guys dramatically underestimate what it actually looks like to reinvest back into yourself. And you are a perfect example of what it actually takes. So John, Michael, let me throw the ball over to you, brother. Do you have any questions for Butterly?
Yeah. So Tim, my story is almost the inverse of yours, where like I grew up upper middle class, went to college, drank and partied through college, didn't really spend college doing what I should have been doing, which is figuring out what I wanted to do with myself. Got out, kind of floated along from job to job. My dad was in the oil and gas industry, so I worked on a rig, then transitioned into several different sales jobs and just kind of floated. So I'm like, if you just kept doing the IT job and never thought about what you actually wanted to do, and I need direction, like
So do you not have any idea at all what you want to do? I
mean, not a ton, man. Like I have interests, but
yeah.
Like,
well, okay. What kind of what do you mean by interests? What are you into?
So I got back into reading like 5 or 6 years ago, and like I'm reading a bunch of these. It's mostly like big epic fantasy books is kind of my jam, and having gone through, I think I have 2 months or almost 3 months of listening time on Audible, and a bunch of books read. I think I could do that, but I've never tried it or have no idea.
You want to write fantasy?
Kinda, yeah.
You know, I don't know. I don't know if there's any authors in here or anyone that's more qualified than me. But one of the side hustles, I guess we'll call it, that I considered was so I'm on an invite only video game message board going back to the early 2000s, and I still try to read it as much as possible. And the characters that I've encountered on there are fucking. I've met adult video performers who are just like, yo, this is who I am, ask me anything, and dudes just geek out over like, oh, what's this girl like? What? But one of the guys on there went, okay, I'm gonna break this down for you guys. I've been making money writing gay erotica and publishing it on Amazon, and here's exactly what I did. And he breaks down the entire process, and he's just like, I'm not even gay. I'm not even bi. I just figured, like, I happened upon this like trail of money, and so this dude was just like, I if I wanted to, I could have just spent some time writing basically pamphlet length gay erotica to get a little bit of income going on Amazon. So it's like, dude, the blueprint. I mean, if you want to write fantasy, you can watch a YouTube tutorial on blocking out a story, outlining characters, defining their arcs. Like, dude, do it bad. Do a bad one and just finish it. Finish a bad fantasy novel, or even just a story outline. Write a couple of chapters. Go, oh, this is shit. Either see it through, or you go on to the next one, which will be incrementally better.
Yeah, the issue is keeping myself going in the meantime. I got to find something else to do.
Like a job, you mean?
Yeah, like actually something.
Work at Amazon, dude. I talked to a guy in Nashville last night, Saturday night. Said he's making $18 an hour to stand in front of a robot that hands him things to put into a box. He clocks out when he's done. He takes as much overtime as he wants. He's living okay. Can you imagine, dude, if you have a mindless job where all day you could do whatever you want with your brain, standing in a factory, and then guess what? You generate enough brain stuff that eventually you go, okay, I'm never doing this again. See you later.
Yeah, I mean, one of the guys
that's just a stupid idea. It's
not bad. One of the big authors the biggest author in the game right now is a guy that he just worked overnight at a hotel and wrote while he was there.
Yeah.
He puts his college course online.
Until they start forcing us to get Neuralink and control what we do with our brains. Like, dude, I spent hours a week ago where I had nothing to do. I just imagined beating the shit out of Stephen Hawking. And I was just like, I can't believe I'm allowed to use my brain for this. This is awesome.
Why would it take hours to beat up Stephen Hawking?
I'll tell you this. Each run through the simulation only took a couple of minutes, but...
Well, if you're going to beat him up right,
it's pretty detailed by the end.
In a world with endless ways to beat up Stephen Hawking, I suppose.
I'm telling you that, okay, it was after the Epstein thing, and it was just, I would start the simulation, I kick in the door, I go, Stephen Hawking, you have to stop. And I would go in and I would try out different stuff, and I would just be like, damn. And then my wife would say, it's almost time to get ready, and I'd be like, leave me alone.
Problems.
So, Buddy, what I hear from you telling John, Michael, is number one, hey man, you're coming here to ask permission, but you don't need permission. The second thing is the blueprint's out there. The third thing is go and do the blueprint. And the fourth thing is, if you need to make ends meet in the meantime, there's a lot of jobs out there like Amazon per se. You can go and make whatever it takes to put food on the table and in the off hours.
I'm saying Amazon as an assumption that you have no skills and you can barely read. It sounds like you can really read, but so you might be overqualified for Amazon. I'm just saying I did a job that made me. I had convinced myself I was going to kill myself, and I did it every day. And it was like, it can be more manageable if you know that you're working towards something way better.
Yeah, and I think that's because like I said, I floated from job to job where an opportunity would pop up, I'd get it, I'd start out fairly fired up about it, and then slowly just get ground down and never have anything in the back motivating me to keep pushing through it.
Yeah, most jobs and industries are stupid and impossible to care about. So that makes perfect sense to me.
Very true. Yeah.
Well, John Michael, hey man, I appreciate you, brother. We're going to get to some other questions. Thank you, bro, for
we'll talk to John Michael, stick around, man. Like, stay in the middle of this group because I can relate a lot to what you're saying, and just staying in this group of homies can unlock what you really want to do. I know it's like it's hard to go from like I don't know what I want to spend every day doing to I've got this passion. Like that can be an impossible leap, but we can do a goal setting session just like the epic goal setting session that Tim is talking about.
The legendary.
Yeah, dude, like that. And I did that with Wes 3 years ago. And that I went from who you are, not knowing what my role is in the world to an underperforming small business. And I can promise the same for you. Wes, go ahead.
Thank you, brother. John Michael, we're going to let you go. Kaizen, let me throw the ball over to you, bro. What questions do you have or question do you have for Butterly? Where are you at, et cetera? And you might have to take yourself off mute because I think
Yeah. What up, man?
Yeah, what's up, Robert?
Hey, I'm in a kind of position I think a lot of other people are too, where we were talking about that Friday. If you have a bunch of different things that you're working on, like if you were to start over again, just putting out content of your own brand, if you would try to make individual channels for each one of the things that you're doing, or if you would put that under like one umbrella, then if that's what you're doing, how to go about getting that video out there when you're trying to balance like doing maybe like the job that's paying the bills for right now while you're still kind of creating the content to build your own brand. What advice or what adversity or challenges you ran into that you can make sure that we don't have to do the same head against the wall kind of thing?
Sure. So I can only speak for myself, and I am kind of going through that right now because I am making a bunch of different stuff, and I am trying. And I mean, if we could just snap back to reality for a second, I have relatively almost no audience. Do you know what I mean? Like as far as what you consider like
compared to Wes, for example.
Compared to like a professional entertainer or comedian, I am like you'd think I hadn't even started yet. So if I were to answer from that perspective, it's like everything's under the Tim Butterly brand. Everything I do is under my, it's under my YouTube channel. I'm doing like, even on my YouTube channel alone, I'm doing 3 or 4 almost distinct things. And I'll see, it's almost like trial by fire for every idea. If something is worth keeping around, then it'll stay. Now, however, if I started with even less of an audience, it would be literally 0. I think what I would do, and I do consider this, for if what I'm doing right now ever feels like a dead end, I would whatever I wanted to make content about, I would specialize. I would create channels for, let's say I was doing like a video game speedrunning history channel. I guess that was completely subconscious, by the way. I guess I would do that if I needed to come up with something. I would brand it, and I would study what's been effective for people to being inserted into the algorithm, and how to end up on people's For You pages. And like that information is readily, people share that freely. Well, I don't know about freely, but it's easy to find. If my other idea wasn't that distinct, like if my first idea was a history of video game speedrunning channel, and then my second idea was like me speedrunning video games, you know what I mean? That's a different thing, not distinct enough to be a different channel. However, if my second one was powerlifting, guess what? Now I've got a completely separate entity. I'm seeking a different audience. I'm trying to be inserted in the algorithms of different people. And you'd have to create a second distinct strategy for that. But can you share specifically what kind of stuff you're trying to get into, though?
Yeah, so I've flown drones in the past, and I've done like some programming with computer vision. And with doing that, and then like last year I did a lot of plumbing, which all of those are like vastly different. And I'm trying to kind of combine that in a comedic way to put out my own videos, because I think it's fun to be able to teach people stuff like that and then have fun doing it and then do it in a funny way, because I think it makes jobs that would normally, like, you're literally touching shit in plumbing. So,
well, I will say that if there is a through line between the plumbing and coding and drone flying, if that through line is you and your personality, then I would consider myself being the brand. And you know, making sure that whatever I'm showing people, it's through my filter and it has my stamp on it, so that whatever I'm creating can't be made by someone else because it's me. Do you know what I mean? It's not, you know, again, my example was speedrunning documentaries where I did that without the idea of, you know, me being a comedian behind it. So yeah, dude, the drone flying plumber who, you know, writes code for a self-flushing toilet or whatever. Yeah, there's a space for you, dude.
Well, I like that. I like that answer, because I think what a lot of people are sleeping on right now is that the asset could purely be your perspective on something. Right? Like Joe Rogan, he's the through line for stand-up comedy, for UFC fighting, for whatever else, you know, for deer hunting, et cetera, all of these things, but it's through his, I guess, experience, which is why it's called Joe Rogan Experience. Kaizen, any other follow-up questions, brother?
No, I just kind of wanted to reiterate that I think you said it on a podcast maybe last year. I don't remember how long ago it was. I remember you and Rainey and Sid on like the Church of Dogology stuff, but there was something you said about like making sure whatever you're doing, you're having a good time while you're doing it. And I kind of took that approach, and I've seen like some older guys, like especially in plumbing, where they'll go into a job that normally it's hell, but they have a good attitude and they're joking around, having fun. And then just kind of bringing that to everything, like doing laundry and stuff with my kid. It's made a huge difference in just my quality of life.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, that's like a version of mindfulness. And actually, I know a plumber that like really embodies this. My boy, Mr. Tubbs, a dude in Philly. This dude does the gnarliest plumbing jobs in the world. He'll post them on Instagram. And when you talk to him, he's enjoying moment to moment more than anybody I know, to the point where when you talk to him, you wouldn't even know he had a job. You know what I mean? He's like, if I could mine whatever's going on inside that guy, I'd fucking bottle it and sell it in a heartbeat. But I think he's just trying to have a good time.
Absolutely love it. Kaizen, thank you, brother. I'm going to throw the mic over to Phil here. Phil, if you have any questions, let me know while you get prepped. Phil, any questions for Mr. Tim Butterly, my friend?
Yeah, I think like listening to you and Mike's podcast a lot. You guys talked about like for a long time. I mean, at least Mike said this. I think you said this too. That like he really hated comedy and he felt very like stuck in comedy for a long time. And like I was just wondering, like, because it seems like comedy, especially since you have to get on a stage and like kind of humiliate yourself if it's not going well, like it seems like comedy's like really brutal in terms of like getting yourself to do something you don't want to do. So I can see how comedy especially like is like to get on stage when you really don't like it, and especially if like your career in comedy is like if you isn't going how you would like it to, I feel like that would be extremely difficult. So I'm just wondering if like, because like my main problem in life is still like just being kind of a pussy about not being able to get myself to do things that I don't want to do. You know, I'm like really bad at that.
What kind of stuff do you not want to do that you wish you had the the motivation to do? You know.
Well, I mean, like pretty much really like all of my goals in life are just like very concrete, or mostly pretty concrete things that I can just work towards. But like, I released a small video game a few months ago, and
what's it called?
It's called Sebil Engineering, SEBIL Engineering, and like it's gotten, for how tiny of an audience I have, it's gotten an okay amount of reception, and I'm pretty happy with, the way it's going.
Bro,
but
it's got 9 out of 10 on Steam. What the hell, man? It's overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Somehow it has 100% positive reviews so far. I'm not really sure how that happened, but it's pretty cool. But like, so I need to put out an update soon. Like, there's a sale coming out soon that's particularly, you're only allowed to enter the sale if you meet certain criteria, and I want to add an update that will, make me meet that criteria, so I can add the sale and get more sales. And I have like 8 or 7 days left to get on this, and that's plenty of time. And I haven't worked a single day on it in like 2 weeks. And it's just ridiculous because, like, it's not even hard. It's like literally it's just grunt work. It doesn't even take very much brain power. It's just like, I don't want to do it, and I just don't do it.
I struggle with those kind of things too. So would you describe it as almost like menial work? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
there's no intellectual challenge. There's no creative roadblock. There's no intellectual puzzle. Yeah, that shit sucks, dude. I don't know how how good I would be at comedy if I could sit down and like go through like the wording of a joke and edit it on that scale. I'd be a millionaire right now. Well, I don't know. I can assume, but I just know that that's something I'm not equipped to do. What do you think about maybe finding, let's say, an intern who you could show how to do this kind of, or work with, even just onboarding a person to get behind your idea might boost you through the tedious process of that kind of thing. Find a college student maybe who just wants to say they have a little bit of experience in games or something.
Yeah, I've actually gotten not a bunch, but I've gotten like 2 requests from different people to like help with coding and stuff. And
why didn't you take them up?
The only reason I haven't, like, one of them just messaged me the other day, and the only reason I haven't taken it up is just kind of out of fear, because I know like they're going to change the way all the code looks, and then I'm not going to be able to read it. And I'm like, it's not a good excuse at all. It's a terrible excuse. But
and the fear of delegation can sink you just as badly as being derelict in your efforts,
And also, I think one of the stupidest reasons is that I really like being able to say I did everything in the game is I did it, except for the sound effects. I made everything, and it's really nice to my ego to say that. I can relate to this in like the podcasting and stuff. Like for the first like 3 years of Dab Meat, I did all of like our, and it's a modest setup, but I got us to a point where we were live streaming with a DSLR, managing a live chat, and I think I probably built the PC that we were doing it all on. I did everything. I did from turning on the lights to the broadcast. I did every single thing. And I loved telling people I did that. I loved saying like, yeah, man, I do this all. Now, you know what I love saying? I have a team. And it feels 10 times better. And the results are 10 times better. Yeah.
Like how long do you think you could go on feeling that like inflation from saying I'm a one-man operation, I did this all myself? I think eventually that dries up.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, you replace it at least tenfold when you find, it's hard to find good help, and it's hard to change yourself to be able to like, foster their growth. But I think it's an important step toward whatever comes after, the initial release of civil engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I honestly is exactly what Phil needed. You guys, it seemed like, can relate on that level, which is outstanding. And Phil's such a killer, but he just refuses to take credit for his work. And one day he'll recognize himself for the all-star that he really is. Phil, thank you so much, brother, for hanging in there with us and showing up every week.
Yeah, and I'm so happy to hear you guys rapping about this, because it just fills my heart with joy. Because Tim, I know you've talked about your desire to make your own video game.
Yeah, I actually just met Cliffy B. I don't know if you guys know who Cliffy B is, but he was the lead designer behind Gears of War. He came to my show in Raleigh. Like, this is, as far as like, video game guys, this is like, I mean, that's top of the food chain type stuff. And he's kind of a psychopath now, but the Gears of War guy was at my show, and I didn't get to talk to him in person, but he DM'd me.
Cliffy B is the perfect man to execute Fat Bitch Dark Souls.
I know,
There's not
dude.
a more perfect man on the planet.
I told him next time I come to Raleigh, dude, you have to let me pitch Fat Bitch Dark Souls. And he said, sounds like a great band name. I said, shut up. I said, shut up, Cliff.
All right, let's get. If you don't mind, Tim, let's get one more question for you because I know we want to respect your time, and I very much appreciate coming on here, brother. Last question. Let me throw it over to Ray. Ray, what question would you have for Mr. Butterly? I know where you're at with your business, etc. But now is your time to fangirl out. So go.
All right, Tim. I guess I have a similar journey to, I think it's John Michael, where in order to fit in with my class and status, I even though I was a bad student, I went to university and then I went to law school, and then I failed the New York bar exam once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And so the universe, I was fighting the universe, right? Because now I work in art. I have my own art gallery and art consulting business. And I really feel like I'm not fighting the universe anymore, right? And so, I guess I just want to know, did you have a similar journey where you felt like you were fighting the universe trying to do this job that you weren't naturally good at or you weren't naturally passionate about? And how does it feel now that you're not fighting the universe?
Okay. So I wanted to be an IT guy. I knew I don't remember when I realized I wasn't going to college, but I do remember when I realized that I had already had the knowledge to get a career, just working on computers. And that was all I was an indoor kid growing up because it was hell outside. And I was using secondhand computer hardware in high school to play video games. And I learned enough about hardware and Windows that when I was, I think 18, I got an office clerk job, and all I did was I took my office clerk money and I paid for a membership at a jiu-jitsu gym, and I just thought I could do this forever. I could work this shit job. I could wrestle dudes. I don't need anything else. And I met a guy. I was training with a guy, and he was about my size. We were good. We were good training partners, and he told me that his company was hiring. He worked in IT, and it sounded daunting what he was talking about because I was just, I could fix hardware problems and any Windows issue, but he was talking about doing work on computer networks for law firms all around the city, and I was like, whoa, he asked me if I was interested, and I went, that sounds like too big of a leap. And I was insecure about not having the IT or about not having any college. And I just did it, on a whim, on an impulse. I gave him a resume, and I got in, and I thought I could work my way up in this because I loved learning all the new stuff. I loved every new task. I would follow guys around on their jobs, and I would see I would be looking over people's shoulders, and and it worked. And I couldn't complain about the trajectory. I mean, obviously this isn't developer working for Google or Amazon type stuff. This was, this was a step above the janitor, as you know what I mean? It wasn't very elevated stuff. Anyway, I loved it. However, almost every personal interaction I had with every person I met in every office I went to made me go, was I seriously injured as a child and no one told me? Did I leave part of my brain on a hospital floor and they've kept it a secret from me my entire life? Nothing made sense to me. And then I worked at that place for 11 years, got laid off, but the Comedy Central thing was happening. That fell through. I had to get a new big boy job. I went into the e-commerce thing, and I'm not kidding, dude. It felt like a prank. Every day I would go into an office of 100 people, and every interaction I had, every piece of eye contact I had with everybody made me think I was in an extended Windy City Heat prank. It never clicked into place. I would be in meetings where I was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, why the emotional investment in every decision that goes into every part of our day? I couldn't wrap my head around it. And that was where my true source of misery came from. And like, it's just, yeah, those were the signs. Those were the signs every day that I was in the wrong place. And
then it sounds like, and what Wes talks about is like, if there's something that you would do for free, better yet, if there's something that you would still do even if you had to pay to do it, then that just might be your calling. And it sounds like comedy was that, because it wasn't really paying all this time, was it?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, until I get these deals really popping, there's parts of it that still feels like it's not paying. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But you're still willing to do it, or do you feel like you have to do it, or you want to do it that badly?
Yeah, absolutely. The only things I've ever felt that way about are, I guess, comedy and martial arts, and that's
Stephen Hawking
most of my time. And beating me fuck out of Stephen Hawking. God, I wish he was alive.
Well, for some reason, Wes thought you'd be a good expert to bring on our advice show. Wes, any closing remarks for this this hero?
Tim, it's been an honor knowing you, brother. It really has. You super inspirational to me, and I know to the dudes here. If somebody from here wanted to go and check you out, where would they find you, bud?
I'm just at Tim Butterly on literally every platform. I'm easy to get a hold of. And if you come to one of my shows and you want to smoke weed outside afterwards, that would be my absolute pleasure. Wes, I can't tell you I try to, but I don't know if I could ever fully tell you the impact that you've had on me. And as far as I take all this stuff, part of it will be due to your intervention in my life, and I appreciate you, man. And Ray, it's been an absolute pleasure hanging with you today. I hope we get to a chance to do this again.
We will. Wes
Tim,
has plans.
really, bro, I appreciate that compliment. I really do. Thank you, brother. It's literally my mission here on earth, like to help others make progress. And I know it sounds cheesy, but hearing you say that means a lot to me, bro. Thank you.
Thanks for
all right, dudes. I love you guys. Have an outstanding week. Talk to you guys soon. Later.